My name is Linda Hayes. I'm 62 years old, and what I'm about to tell you happened 3 weeks ago, on a Sunday morning that split my life into before and after.
Before we continue, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching.
I had just come back from the 10 a.m. service at St. Paul's Methodist Church on Oak and Fifth. The organ was out of tune as usual, hitting that flat C-sharp that always made me wince. I'd sat in my regular pew, third row from the back, left side, where the varnish stain on the corner looks like a small bird if you tilt your head. 40 years in that same spot. 40 years of praying for my family, for my late husband Thomas, for our only son Richard. I pulled into my driveway at 428 Maple Drive at exactly 11:17 a.m. I remember because I glanced at the dashboard clock, thinking I had enough time to make pot roast before Richard and Melissa came over for Sunday lunch. They'd been coming every week since Thomas passed 6 months ago. September 14th, 2023. Heart failure, the doctor said. He was only 64. I grabbed my purse and the church bulletin from the passenger seat. The third step creaked under my weight like it always does. I'd been meaning to fix it for years, but Thomas used to say that creak was our home alarm system. We'd always know when someone was coming or going. The front door was unlocked. I frowned. I was sure I'd locked it before leaving, but maybe I'd forgotten. I'd been forgetting small things lately. Little gaps in memory that scared me more than I wanted to admit. I stepped into the hallway. The house smelled wrong. Not like the coffee I'd brewed that morning. Not like the lavender sachets I kept in the linen closet. It smelled like champagne. Sweet, yeasty, expensive. And candles. I could smell burning wax. I walked toward the living room, my Sunday shoes silent on the worn carpet runner. The yellow light from the old lamp I'd bought in 1998 spilled into the hallway. I could hear laughter, low, intimate. A woman's giggle. I stopped at the threshold. My son Richard was sitting on my brown velvet sofa, the one with the arms worn smooth from 40 years of use. And on his lap, her legs draped over his, her head thrown back in laughter, was my daughter-in-law, Melissa. She was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. Her blonde hair cascaded over her bare shoulders, and around her neck, catching the candlelight from at least a dozen tapers scattered around my living room, was a diamond necklace that made my breath stop. I knew that necklace. Not because I'd ever worn it, but because Thomas had shown me a picture of it 3 years ago from a jewelry store website. "One day, Linda," he'd said, his rough carpenter's hands holding mine. "One day when we have a little extra, I'm going to buy you something beautiful like this. You deserve it." We never had that extra money. Not with Richard's college loans, $63,000 we paid off over 8 years. Not with Thomas's medical bills, $47,000 the last 2 years. Not with the house repairs and the property taxes and the cost of living on a teacher's pension and a carpenter's irregular income, but there it was, around Melissa's throat, gleaming. I stood there, frozen, my church bulletin crumpling in my hand. They hadn't seen me yet. Richard's hand was on Melissa's waist. Her fingers played with his hair. On the coffee table I'd inherited from my mother sat an ice bucket, a bottle of champagne, 2 crystal flutes I'd never seen before. This was my living room, my house, my son, and they looked like lovers. Not like a son and his wife celebrating something innocent. Like lovers who'd been waiting for me to leave so they could be alone. My throat closed. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Then Melissa turned her head slightly, and I saw her profile in the candlelight. She smiled at Richard with a look I'd never seen her give him in public. Possessive, hungry, triumphant. She whispered something I couldn't hear. Richard laughed, low and intimate, and pulled her closer. I took 1 step backward. The third board in the hallway creaked. They both froze. Melissa's head snapped toward the doorway. For a fraction of a second, our eyes met. Hers widened. Not with shame, with calculation. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I turned and walked back down the hallway, my legs moving on autopilot. Out the front door, down the creaking third step, into my 2004 Honda Civic with the dent on the passenger side, from when Richard borrowed it 7 years ago and never apologized. I sat in the driver's seat, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at my own front door. My phone buzzed. Richard. Calling. I didn't answer. It buzzed again. And again. 10 times in the next 5 minutes. I watched the screen light up with his name, over and over like an accusation. Finally, I reached for the glove compartment to silence the phone. My hand brushed against something I'd forgotten was there. A sealed envelope. Cream-colored, expensive paper. My name written in Thomas's careful handwriting across the front. Linda, read this when you're ready. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to tell you myself. I stared at it. My husband had been dead for 6 months, and I'd never known this letter existed. It must have been here since before he died, tucked away in this glove compartment where I rarely looked. My phone buzzed again. Richard, 11th call. I held the envelope in my trembling hands, Thomas's last words to me waiting inside, while my son's name flashed on the screen like a warning I should have heeded years ago. And I realized, sitting there in my driveway on that bright October Sunday, that I didn't know my family at all. I didn't know what I was more afraid of, what was in that letter, or what I'd just seen in my living room. The envelope felt heavier than it should, like it contained something more than paper, like it contained truth. I didn't go home that night. I drove to the Comfort Inn on Route 55, the one with the flickering neon sign and the breakfast buffet that smells like burnt coffee and fake maple syrup. I paid $89 for a room with beige walls and a painting of a lighthouse that had probably been there since 1987. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my church dress, staring at Thomas's letter. I didn't open it. Not yet. I wasn't ready to know what my husband had been too afraid to tell me while he was alive. My phone had stopped ringing around 2 p.m. 10 calls from Richard, 3 from Melissa, then silence. The kind of silence that feels like they're regrouping, planning, deciding how to handle the problem of me. I ordered Chinese food from the place across the street. Sweet and sour chicken that tasted like plastic and regret. I ate it sitting cross-legged on the bed, like a teenager hiding from the world. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Richard. Mom, we need to talk. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. at your house. It's important. Not, I'm sorry you saw something that upset you. Not, let me explain. Just a summons. To my own house. I didn't respond. I got home at 9:30 the next morning, half an hour early. I wanted to be the one in control this time. Sitting in my own living room, in my own chair, when they arrived. The candles were gone. The champagne bottle was gone. The crystal flutes had vanished. My living room looked exactly as it always did. Worn furniture, family photos on the mantel, the TV remote on the arm of Thomas's old recliner where he'd left it the day before he died, like nothing had happened. At exactly 10 a.m., Richard's black Lexus pulled into the driveway. Least I knew, because he'd complained about the monthly payment, $847 at Sunday dinner 3 weeks ago. Melissa had told him to stop being cheap, that image matters in his profession. Richard stepped out first. He was wearing his work clothes, charcoal suit, pale blue tie, leather shoes I'd bought him for Christmas 2 years ago, $220 I'd saved from my monthly pension of $2,100. He looked tired, older than his 36 years. Melissa emerged from the passenger side in white jeans and a cashmere sweater the color of champagne. The diamond necklace was gone, but she was wearing diamond studs I'd never seen before. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She looked like she'd just stepped out of a spa. They walked to my door together, not touching, professional distance. I let them ring the doorbell twice before I opened it. Mom, Richard said, his voice careful. Thanks for agreeing to meet. I hadn't agreed to anything, but I stepped aside and let them in. We sat in the living room, me in Thomas's recliner, Richard and Melissa on the sofa where I'd found them yesterday. The irony wasn't lost on me. Richard cleared his throat. Mom, about yesterday? Where did the necklace come from? I asked. My voice was steady, cold. I barely recognized it. Melissa's hand went to her throat, an instinctive gesture. What necklace? The diamond necklace you were wearing, the one worth about $4,000. The one my husband showed me a picture of 3 years ago and said he wanted to buy for me someday. Richard and Melissa exchanged a look, quick, practiced, like they'd rehearsed this. Mom, Richard said slowly, that necklace was a gift, from me to Melissa, For our 8th anniversary. With what money? I asked. You told me 3 months ago you were struggling with credit card debt. You asked me to co-sign a loan for $8,500. I'd said no. It was the first time in Richard's life I'd ever refused him money. Melissa leaned forward, her face a mask of concern. Linda, I think you're confused. Richard's business has been doing very well. He got a promotion in August. We're financially stable now. August, I repeated. 1 month before Thomas died. Another look between them, this one more nervous. Mom, Richard said, are you feeling okay? You seem disoriented. Disoriented. The word landed like a slap. I know what I saw, I said. What did you see? Melissa asked softly. 2 people having champagne in their own family's living room, celebrating Richard's promotion? Is that a crime? This isn't Richard's house, I said. It's mine. Thomas left it to me. Of course he did, Richard said quickly. Nobody's disputing that. But Mom, Melissa, and I were just having a private moment. We thought you'd be at church longer. We wanted to surprise you with good news when you got back. You were sitting in his lap. Silence. I was not, Melissa said, her voice sharp now. I was sitting next to him. The angle must have confused you. I saw Linda, Melissa interrupted, her tone shifting to something softer, more dangerous. I'm worried about you. We both are. You've been under so much stress since Thomas died. The grief, the loneliness. It's completely normal to start seeing things differently than they are. My hands gripped the arms of the recliner. I am not crazy. Nobody said you were, Richard said, but his eyes said something else. But Mom, you have to admit, you've been forgetting things lately. Small things. You left the stove on twice last month. You missed your dentist appointment. You called me Thomas last week. I had called him Thomas, once, because in that moment, tired and missing my husband, my son's voice had sounded exactly like his father's. And now this, Melissa added gently. Accusing us of, what exactly? Having an affair? Richard is your son. I'm his wife. We love each other. We love you. The word affair hung in the air like smoke. I hadn't said it, but now that it was spoken, it couldn't be taken back. I didn't say that, I whispered. But you're thinking it, Richard said. Mom, this is serious. This kind of paranoia. These false accusations. It's not healthy. The front door opened. I jerked my head toward the sound. My sister Patricia walked in without knocking, her face set in grim determination. She was 59, 3 years younger than me, divorced twice, always bitter that I'd had the perfect marriage while hers had failed. Patricia, I said, what are you doing here? Richard called me, she said, sitting down on the armchair across from me. He's worried about you, Linda. We all are. We, I repeated. Richard pulled out his phone. Mom, I've been talking to Dr. Morrison. He's a geriatric psychiatrist. He specializes in cases like yours. Cases like mine? Early onset dementia, Patricia said bluntly. Memory loss, paranoid delusions, confusion. Linda, it runs in our family. Aunt Margaret had it. Started around 60. My blood went cold. Aunt Margaret had spent her last 5 years in a memory care facility, not recognizing her own children. I don't have dementia, I said. Dr. Morrison says you need an evaluation, Richard continued. Just to rule it out. If everything's fine, great. But if there's something wrong, we need to catch it early. And if I refuse? The 3 of them looked at each other. Another practiced exchange. Then we'll have to take other steps, Patricia said. For your own safety. What kind of steps? I asked, though I already knew. Legal ones, Melissa said softly. She stood and walked to the window, her back to me. Richard has power of attorney for healthcare decisions. Thomas signed it over to him 2 years ago, when he was sick. It's standard procedure. My world tilted. Thomas had never told me about any power of attorney. You're lying, I said. Melissa turned, her face sad, pitying. We have the documents, Linda. Notarized, witnessed, legal. Richard pulled papers from his briefcase. I saw my husband's signature at the bottom, his careful, deliberate handwriting. If you're not capable of making rational decisions, Richard said quietly, I have the legal right to make them for you. I don't want to do that, Mom, but I will. To protect you. Patricia nodded. It's for the best, Linda. You can't live alone anymore. Not if you're having these episodes. What episodes? I demanded. I saw what I saw. You saw a son celebrating good news with his mother's family, Melissa said, and you twisted it into something sick. That's not normal, Linda. I looked at my son, at the boy I'd raised, the child I'd sacrificed everything for. Richard, I said. Tell me the truth. What's really going on? He met my eyes for a long moment. I saw something flicker there. Guilt, maybe, or fear, but then it was gone. I'm trying to help you, Mom, he said. Please, let me help. Melissa walked over and stood behind Richard, her hand on his shoulder. Possessive, protective. She leaned down and whispered something in his ear. He nodded. Then Melissa crossed the room and crouched in front of me, taking my hands in hers. Her skin was soft, warm. Her perfume was expensive, jasmine and vanilla. Linda, she said, her voice honey-sweet. We love you. This house, these memories, they're important to all of us. Nobody wants to take anything away from you. But if you keep making these accusations, if you keep refusing help, then Richard will have to make difficult decisions about your health care. Do you understand what I'm saying? I understood perfectly. They were threatening me, in my own home, with my own son's authority. I understand, I said. Melissa smiled. Good, then we're all on the same page. She squeezed my hands once, then stood. We'll schedule that appointment with Dr. Morrison for Friday. Richard will pick you up at 9 a.m. She walked to the door, Richard following. Patricia hesitated, then leaned close to my ear. Stop fighting this, Linda, she whispered. You can't win. Then they were gone. I sat in Thomas's recliner for a long time after they left, staring at nothing. Then I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. My hands were shaking as I tore it open. Thomas's handwriting was shaky. Not like the careful, deliberate script I'd known for 40 years. This was the handwriting of a dying man. My dearest Linda, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm a coward. I should have told you this to your face, but I was too weak, too sick, and too ashamed. Richard has been stealing from us. I stopped breathing. The letter trembled in my hands. I discovered it by accident 2 months ago. June 14th, 2023. I was trying to transfer money from our savings to checking to pay the electric bill. The balance was wrong, way wrong. I called the bank. They sent me statements. Over the last 18 months, Richard has been making withdrawals. Small ones at first, $800 here, $500 there, then bigger, $2,000, $3,500, always just under the amounts that would trigger alerts. Always with explanations that sounded reasonable when I called him. Emergency car repair, Dad. Medical bill for Melissa. Investment opportunity that fell through. I believed him every time. Until I added it all up. $18,000, Linda. Our son stole $18,000 from us. My vision blurred. I wiped my eyes and kept reading. I confronted him once. July the 2nd. He came over when you were at book club. He cried. Said Melissa had gambling debts, online poker, sports betting, apps on her phone. She'd hidden it from him for years. By the time he found out, she owed $31,000 to a debt collection agency. He begged me not to tell you. Said it would kill you to know. Said he'd pay us back. Every penny. He showed me a payment plan. $50 a week for the next 7 years. I was so stupid, Linda. I believed him because I wanted to. Because he's our son. Because I thought people could change. But last week I got a notification from the credit card company. Someone tried to use our card at a jewelry store in Chicago. The charge was declined because we'd hit our limit. $4,200 for a diamond necklace. I called Richard. He said it was a mistake, that his card had been declined and he'd accidentally grabbed ours from the last time we had dinner together. He said he'd canceled the charge. He was lying. I could hear it in his voice. Linda, I'm dying. The doctors gave me 3 months, maybe 6. My heart is giving out. I don't have the strength to fight this battle, but you do. When I'm gone, protect yourself. Richard has access to our joint account because I added him as an authorized user when I got too sick to go to the bank myself. Close that account. Open a new one in your name only. The power of attorney Patricia mentioned. I never signed anything giving Richard control over healthcare decisions. If he shows you documents, they're forgeries. I'm attaching a copy of my real will and my real power of attorney. I gave that authority to you, and only you. I should have been braver. I should have protected you better. I'm so sorry. I love you. Always, Thomas. I sat on the floor of my living room, the letter in my lap, and cried until I had nothing left. My husband had known. He'd known our son was a thief and a liar, and he'd been too sick, too tired, too heartbroken to stop it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with Thomas's letter, a notepad, and every bank statement I could find going back 2 years. Thomas had been methodical. He'd attached printed screenshots, highlighted transactions, written notes in the margins. June 8, 2022. $800 withdrawal. Richard claimed car repair, but I saw him driving the same car with the same dent a week later. September 14, 2022, $200 withdrawal. Richard said Melissa's root canal, but her dental insurance should have covered most of that. On and on. 18 months of theft, documented in my dead husband's careful handwriting. I found the credit card statement from August 2023. There it was. Davidson & Sons Fine Jewelry, Chicago. $4,200, not declined, approved. Melissa's diamond necklace, bought with my money, at 3 a.m. I made a list in my red notebook, the one I'd used for lesson planning when I taught 4th grade for 32 years. Facts. Richard stole $18,000 from joint account Melissa has gambling debts, $31,000 plus. Necklace purchased with my credit card, $40,200. Power of attorney documents are likely forged. Patricia is helping them. Why? Questions. How much total debt do they have? What else have they taken? Who else knows? Actions. Call bank. Close joint account. Open new account. My name only. Cancel credit cards. Find lawyer. Get copies of real power of attorney. Confront Patricia. Leverage $12,000 she owes me. At 8 a.m., I called First National Bank. I'd been banking there for 37 years. The manager, Brian Chen, knew me by name. Mrs. Hayes, he said warmly, what can I do for you? I need to close my joint savings account and open a new one. Today. In my name only. There was a pause. Is everything all right? No, I said. But it will be. By 10 a.m., and I had a new account with the remaining $25,000 from our savings. The joint account was closed. Richard's access was terminated. I called the credit card company next, canceled both cards, requested new ones with new numbers. Ma'am, the representative said, I'm showing an authorized user on this account. Richard Hayes. He'll no longer have access either. That's correct, I said. Just confirming, there are 3 pending charges on his card, totaling $1,147. Do you want to dispute those? My hand tightened on the phone. Yes, I want to dispute all charges made by Richard Hayes in the last 6 months. That's quite a few transactions, ma'am. I don't care. He stole my card. I'm disputing everything. By noon, I'd filed fraud reports on $11,000 worth of charges. I felt powerful, cold, efficient. Then my phone rang. Richard, I answered. What the hell did you do? He shouted. My card was just declined at the gas station. I called the bank and they said you closed the account. That's correct, I said calmly. Mom, that's our emergency fund. What if something happens? What if your mother needs that money because her son stole $18,000 from her? I interrupted. Silence. I don't know what you're talking about, he said finally. Thomas knew Richard. He wrote me a letter before he died. He documented everything. Every withdrawal, every lie, every theft. I heard him breathing hard on the other end. You don't understand, he said. Melissa, she has problems. I was trying to help her. I was going to pay you back. With what money? You can't even afford your own gas. Mom, please, we're in trouble. Real trouble. If I don't make these payments, they're going to sue us. They're going to take the house. The house you're renting from me? I asked. For $350 a month? The house I inherited from Thomas? Another silence. I have a lawyer now, I said. Her name is Karen Walters. You'll be hearing from her about the theft, the fraud, and the forged power of attorney documents. Those documents aren't forged. Thomas said they were. And I believe my dead husband more than I believe my thief son. I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Pure, cold rage that I'd kept buried for 6 months while I grieved. The doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Patricia. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. You need to stop this, Patricia said. Richard just called me. He's devastated. Good, I said. Linda, you're being cruel. He made mistakes, yes, but he's your son. Why are you helping him? I asked. What did he promise you? Patricia's face went pale. I don't know what you owe me $12,000, Patricia. 3 loans over 5 years. You never paid back a cent. Did Richard promise to pay your debt if you helped him? Her silence was answer enough. Get off my porch, I said. Linda, get off my porch, or I'll call the police and tell them you're harassing me. Patricia stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Good. I didn't recognize myself either. She left. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it. Then I called Karen Walters. Karen, I said when she answered, this is Linda Hayes. We met at church last year. You gave me your card and said if I ever needed legal help. Linda, Karen said warmly. Of course I remember. What's going on? I told her everything. The theft, the necklace, the forged documents, the threats. Karen was silent for a long moment after I finished. Linda, she said finally, this is elder financial abuse. It's a federal crime. And if Richard forged those power of attorney documents, that's fraud. You could have him prosecuted. I don't want him in prison, I said. I want my money back, and I want him to leave me alone. We can do that, Karen said. But Linda, you need to understand. Once we start this process, there's no going back. Your relationship with your son will never be the same. I thought about Richard sitting in my living room with Melissa on his lap. Thought about him stealing from his dying father. Thought about him threatening to have me declared incompetent. It's already gone, I said. I'm just making it official. Okay, Karen said. Come to my office tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Bring everything, bank statements, Thomas's letter, credit card records, any documents Richard gave you. We're going to build a case. I hung up and sat in Thomas's recliner. For the first time since he died, I felt like I could breathe. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. It was a photo. Richard and Melissa standing outside Davidson & Sons Fine Jewelry in Chicago. The date stamp read August 23, 2023. 2 weeks after Thomas died, Melissa was wearing the diamond necklace. Richard had his arm around her, smiling. Below the photo, a message. Thought you should know. A friend. I stared at the photo for a long time. Someone else knew what they'd done. Someone else was watching, and they were on my side. Karen Walters' office smelled like leather and old books. She was 64, silver-haired with sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. Her walls were covered with framed law degrees and photos of her with various judges and politicians. This was a woman who knew how to fight. I spread everything on her mahogany desk. Bank statements, Thomas's letter, credit card bills. The anonymous photo of Richard and Melissa outside the jewelry store. Karen put on reading glasses and studied each document in silence. 20 minutes passed. She made notes in a yellow legal pad with handwriting as precise as surgery. Finally, she looked up. Linda, she said, your son has committed multiple felonies. Wire fraud. Elder financial abuse under Illinois Statute 1756. Forgery if those power of attorney documents are fake, and I believe they are. You could have him arrested today. I told you, I said. I don't want him in prison. Why not? Karen asked bluntly. He stole from you. He lied to you. He tried to have you declared incompetent so he could steal more. He watched his father die knowing he'd been robbing him. Why does he deserve your mercy? I didn't have a good answer. Because he's my son, I said finally. Karen nodded slowly. Okay, then we do this the civil route. We file a lawsuit for recovery of stolen funds. We get a restraining order preventing him from accessing any of your assets. We demand full repayment with interest. And we make it clear that if he doesn't comply, criminal charges are the next step. What about the house? I asked. The one they're renting from me on Birch Lane. Thomas left it to me in the will. Karen flipped through papers. Do you have a lease agreement with them? Month to month. Richard insisted on it, said it gave him flexibility. Which means you can terminate it with 30 days' notice, Karen said. No cause needed. It's your property. The thought of evicting my own son should have hurt, but all I felt was cold satisfaction. Do it, I said. Karen drafted a termination notice while I sat there. She printed it on law firm letterhead, had it notarized by her secretary, and handed me 3 copies. One for Richard, one for your records, one gets filed with the county, she said. I'm also preparing a cease and desist letter. If Richard or Melissa contact you directly, phone, text, in person, they'll be in violation. Everything goes through me now. What about Patricia? I asked. Your sister? Karen made another note. We can send her a letter too, but she's trickier. She hasn't stolen from you directly, just aided and abetted. She owes me $12,000, I said. 3 loans. I have records. Karen's eyebrows rose. Promissory notes? No, just bank transfers and her promises to pay me back. Without written agreements, it's hard to enforce, but we can threaten legal action. Sometimes that's enough. She paused. Linda, can I ask you something personal? Yes. What changed? You've been letting these people walk all over you for years. Why fight back now? I thought about Thomas's letter, about the champagne and candles, about Melissa's whispered threat in my own kitchen. Because I finally understood that staying silent wasn't protecting my family, I said. It was protecting the people who were destroying it. Karen smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a lawyer who knew she was about to win. Let's go to war, she said. That afternoon, I drove to 1012 Birch Lane. Richard's Lexus was in the driveway. So was Melissa's white Mercedes. Leased $680 a month. Richard had complained about that too. I taped the eviction notice to their front door. Used clear packing tape so rain wouldn't destroy it. Made sure it was visible, official, impossible to miss. Then I took a photo of it with my phone. Evidence. As I walked back to my car, the front door opened. Melissa stood there in yoga pants and a sports bra, her blonde hair in a messy bun. She looked at the notice, then at me. What the hell is this? She shouted. 30 days notice to vacate, I said calmly. It's all explained in the letter. You can't do this. It's my house. I can do whatever I want. Richard appeared behind her, reading the notice over her shoulder. His face went white. Mom, he said, you're making a mistake. We can work this out. All communication goes through my attorney now, I said. Karen Walters, her number's on the letter. I got in my car. Melissa ran down the driveway, barefoot, screaming. You're a bitter old woman, she yelled. You're jealous because your son loves me more than you. I rolled down the window. He can love you in someone else's house. I drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw Richard holding Melissa back. She was crying, screaming, pointing at my car. Good. Let her scream. The anonymous photos started arriving daily after that. The next one came that night. Richard and Melissa at a casino in Indiana. Date stamp, July 12, 2023. 1 month before Thomas died. The message, Melissa bet $3,400 that night. Lost it all. Paid with a credit card ending in 7829. Check your statements. I checked. It was my credit card. The charge was listed as Horseshoe Casino, Hammond Inn. I forwarded it to Karen. The next photo arrived Wednesday. Melissa at a country club, playing golf with 3 other women. Designer clothes, expensive bag, champagne glasses on their table. Message, country club membership, $8,500 year. Guess who's paying for it? I called the club. They confirmed. Membership was under Richard's name. Billed to a credit card ending in 7829. My card. Thursday morning, another photo. Richard's Lexus at a dealership. Date, October 2nd, 2023. 3 weeks after Thomas died. Message, lease upgrade, $847 month to $1,150 month. Signed the same day you were at the funeral home picking out Thomas's casket. I sat at my kitchen table staring at these photos, and something inside me broke. Not broke, like shattered. Broke like a dam releasing pressure. I wasn't sad anymore. I was fucking furious. Karen called at 2 p.m. "Linda," she said, "we have a problem. Richard filed an emergency petition with the court. He's asking for a competency hearing. Claims you're suffering from dementia and making irrational financial decisions. He's using the account closures and eviction notice as evidence." My hands went cold. Can he do that? He can file anything. Whether a judge will hear it is another question. But Linda, he's got an affidavit from Patricia claiming you've been acting erratically for months. And he's scheduled you for an involuntary psychiatric evaluation tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tomorrow. The appointment with Dr. Morrison. They planned this, I said. Of course they did, Karen replied. But here's the good news. I've already filed our own motion. Fraud, elder abuse, forged documents. I've attached Thomas's letter, the bank records, everything. And I've requested an emergency hearing for Monday. We're going to beat them to the punch. What do I do about tomorrow? Don't go, Karen said. If you show up to that evaluation, it legitimizes their claim that you need one. Instead, you show up to my office at 9 a.m. We're going to depose Richard. Depose him? Force him to answer questions under oath about the money, the credit cards, the casino trips, everything. If he lies, it's perjury. I smiled. I'll be there. Friday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. I showered, dressed in my best navy suit, the one I'd worn to parent-teacher conferences for 20 years. Put on the pearl earrings Thomas had given me for our 30th anniversary. I looked in the mirror. I looked old, tired, gray, but I looked strong. At 8:45, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Richard, Melissa, and Dr. Morrison, a thin man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and a leather briefcase. I didn't open the door. "Mom!" Richard shouted. "We have an appointment! Open the door!" I texted Karen, "They're at my house." She texted back immediately, "Do not open the door. I'm calling police for trespassing." Mrs. Hayes, Dr. Morrison called through the door. "I'm Dr. Morrison. I just need to ask you a few questions. It's standard procedure. I don't consent to any evaluation." I called back. "Leave my property or I'm calling the police." "Mom, stop being difficult," Richard yelled. "You have 30 seconds to leave," I said. "Then I call 911. I heard them arguing in hushed voices, then footsteps retreating, car doors slamming, engines starting. I watched through the window as they drove away. Then I grabbed my purse, locked my door, and drove to Karen's office. The deposition took place in a windowless conference room. Richard sat across from me, flanked by a lawyer he'd hired, a young man in a cheap suit who looked barely out of law school. Karen sat next to me, calm and lethal. The court reporter, a woman in her 40s, swore Richard in. "Mr. Hayes," Karen began, "in the 18 months preceding your father's death, how many withdrawals did you make from your parents' joint savings account?" Richard looked at his lawyer. The lawyer nodded. "I don't recall the exact number," Richard said. "Let me refresh your memory." Karen slid a document across the table. 17 withdrawals, totaling $18,000. "Do you dispute these numbers?" "No." "Did you have your parents' permission to make these withdrawals?" Silence. "Mr. Hayes, you're under oath." "My father knew," Richard said finally. "He gave me permission." "Verbal permission?" "Yes. And yet he wrote a letter to his wife before he died saying you stole this money. Why would he do that if he'd given you permission?" Richard's jaw tightened. "I don't know. He was sick, confused." "Was he confused when he documented every single withdrawal with dates, amounts, and notes about your lies?" Karen pushed another document forward. "This is your father's handwriting. Do you recognize it?" "Yes," Richard whispered. "What about the credit card charges? Did you have permission to use your mother's credit card for gambling? For luxury car leases? For country club memberships? Those were mistakes." $17,000 in mistakes? His lawyer intervened. "My client isn't required to answer that." "Actually, he is," Karen said. This is a civil proceeding regarding elder financial abuse. Every charge is relevant. She turned back to Richard. Let's talk about the power of attorney documents you showed your mother. The ones claiming your father gave you healthcare authority over her. Where did you get those documents? From my father's files. Which files? His desk. At home. Mrs. Hayes, did you find any such documents in your husband's desk? No, I said. Thomas kept everything in a fireproof safe. I have the only key. Karen smiled. Mr. Hayes, did you forge your father's signature on those documents? No. Then you won't mind submitting them for handwriting analysis? Richard's face went gray. I don't have them anymore. How convenient, Karen said. The deposition lasted 3 hours. By the end, Richard had admitted to borrowing money he intended to pay back, to misunderstanding credit card permissions, and to making errors in judgment. But he wouldn't admit to theft, wouldn't admit to forgery, wouldn't admit that he'd watched his father die knowing he'd robbed him. When it was over, Karen walked me to my car. We've got him, she said. The judge will rule in your favor. I'd bet my license on it. What happens to Richard? I asked. Depends on what you want. We can push for criminal charges, or we can settle. Full repayment, permanent restraining order, no contact except through counsel. I thought about it. I want my money back, all of it, with interest. And I never want to see him again. Done, Karen said. I drove home as the sun set, painting the October sky orange and purple. My phone buzzed. Another anonymous photo. This time it showed Melissa, Richard, and Patricia in a restaurant. Date: last night. They were laughing, toasting with wine glasses. The message: they're planning something. Be careful. A friend. I stared at the photo. Who was this friend? And what were Richard and Melissa planning? Saturday morning, 2:47 a.m. Someone pounded on my front door. I jolted awake, heart hammering. Grabbed my phone. No missed calls, no texts. The pounding continued. Frantic, desperate. Mom, please, open the door. Richard's voice, slurred, broken. I looked through the peephole. He was alone. No Melissa, no Patricia. His shirt was untucked, hair disheveled, face streaked with tears. Every instinct screamed not to open that door. But he was still my son. I unlocked it but kept the chain on. What do you want? Please, he sobbed. I need to talk to you. Just 5 minutes. It's 3 a.m, Richard. I know. I'm sorry, but I can't. His voice broke. I can't do this anymore. He sank to his knees on my porch, a 36-year-old man, crying like a child. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. He stumbled inside, smelling like whiskey and desperation. I led him to the living room, made him sit on the couch, not Thomas's recliner, never that, and brought him water. He drank it in shaking gulps. Where's Melissa? I asked. Gone. He wiped his face with his sleeve. She left. Took everything. Clothes, jewelry, even the fucking coffee maker. She's gone, Mom. I sat across from him, arms folded. What happened? I told her about the deposition, about what Karen said, that we could face criminal charges, that you were going to sue us for everything. He laughed bitterly. You know what she said? Then you're on your own. I'm not going to jail for your mother's money. So she left. She's been planning it for weeks. I found out tonight. She opened a bank account in her name only, transferred money from our joint account, $4,300, every cent we had left. He looked at me with red, swollen eyes. She was using me, Mom, the whole time. She never loved me. She loved what she thought I could give her. I should have felt satisfaction, vindication. But all I felt was tired. You knew, didn't you? He whispered. You knew she was wrong for me. From the beginning. Yes, I said. Why didn't you say something? I did. At your wedding. I told you I had concerns. You said I was jealous. That I couldn't let you be happy. He flinched like I'd slapped him. The gambling, I said. When did you find out? 6 months before Dad died. She'd hidden it for years. By the time I discovered the credit card bills, she owed $31,000. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. So you stole from us. I borrowed from you. he corrected weakly. Without asking, without permission, while your father was dying. I was going to pay it back. With what money, Richard? You're drowning in debt. The Lexus you can't afford, the house you're about to lose, the lifestyle you've been living on stolen credit. He buried his face in his hands. I know. I fucked up everything. We sat in silence for a long time. Why did you try to have me declared incompetent? I asked finally. He looked up, surprised. That wasn't my idea. That was Melissa. She said if we could get control of your assets, we could pay off the debt collectors. She said it was temporary, that we'd give you everything back once we were stable. Did you believe her? I wanted to, he whispered. God, I wanted to. Because if I didn't believe her, then I had to face what I'd become. A thief. A liar. A man who terrorized his own mother. The power of attorney documents. Where did you get them? His face crumbled. Melissa knew a guy, a paralegal who owed her money. He forged them, copied Dad's signature from old tax returns. I told myself it was just insurance, that we'd never actually use them. But then you started asking questions, and Melissa said we had to act fast. So you brought Patricia in. Patricia hates you, Richard said bluntly. She always has. She jumped at the chance to help. Melissa promised to pay off her debt to you, the $12,000. Patricia didn't care if it was right or wrong. She just wanted you to suffer. The casual cruelty of it hit me like a fist. Richard, I said slowly, did your father know you were stealing from him? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Yes, he finally whispered. He confronted me. July 2nd. I'll never forget the date. He had bank statements spread out on this table. He looked so disappointed, not angry, just destroyed. What did you tell him? The truth. About Melissa's gambling. About the debt. I cried. Begged him not to tell you. Promised I'd pay him back. Richard's voice broke. He believed me, Mom. He actually believed I'd changed, and I betrayed him again. 2 weeks before he died, I maxed out your credit card buying Melissa that necklace. She said if I loved her, I'd prove it. And you did. I did. He sobbed. Dad called me the next day. Said he knew what I'd done. Said he was done protecting me. That he was going to tell you everything after his doctor's appointment. My blood went cold. When was that appointment? September 13th. He died the night before. September 12th. Thomas had died suddenly. Heart failure in his sleep, the doctor said. No warning. No chance to say goodbye. Richard, I said carefully, did you do something to your father? His head snapped up, eyes wide with horror. What? No. God, no, Mom. I'm a thief, but I'm not a murderer. Dad just died. The doctor said it was his heart, that it could have happened any time. I believed him. Mostly. But a small voice in my head whispered, how convenient. I've lost everything, Richard said. Melissa's gone. Patricia won't return my calls. She's scared she'll be implicated. The house is going to be repossessed in 30 days. My credit is destroyed. I have no money, no job prospects, and a criminal case hanging over my head. He looked at me. I deserve all of it, every bit of it. But Mom, I need you to know, I never stopped loving you. I was weak. I was stupid. I let Melissa manipulate me. But I love you. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to wrap him in my arms like I did when he was 8 years old, scared of thunderstorms, promising him everything would be okay. But I wasn't that woman anymore. Do you remember what you said to me when you were 8? I asked. He blinked, confused. What? I'd worked a double shift at the school, 16 hours, came home exhausted. You were waiting up for me. You hugged me and said, when I grow up, I'm going to take care of you, Mom. I promise. Tears streamed down his face. You broke that promise, I said. You didn't just break it. You shattered it. You stole from me. You lied to me. You tried to take away my freedom, my dignity, my home. You allied with people who hate me, and you did it all while your father was dying. I know. I'm not finished. My voice was ice. You come here at 3 a.m, drunk, crying, telling me Melissa left you. You want sympathy, forgiveness. You want me to say it's okay, that we can fix this, that we're still family. Mom, here's what I'm going to offer you, Richard. One time. Take it or leave it. He stared at me, waiting. You sign a written confession. Every theft, every lie, every forged document. You agree to testify against Melissa if we pursue criminal charges against her. You agree to repay every cent you stole, $18,000 from the account, plus $11,400 in fraudulent credit card charges. That's $29,400 total. You'll pay it in installments, $50 a week, every week. For the next 11 years, you'll get a real job, not a fancy one. A real one. You'll live within your means, and you'll stay away from me until you've paid back every penny. His face went pale. 11 years? You stole from your dying father for 18 months. You'll spend 11 years making it right. And then, he whispered, after 11 years, then we'll see if you've learned what it means to be a man of integrity, what it means to keep a promise, what it means to be my son. What if I refuse? Then Karen files criminal charges Monday morning. You'll face federal prosecution for elder financial abuse, 5 to 10 years in prison. Melissa goes down with you, accessory to fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and Patricia gets investigated for her role. You'd send me to prison? You sent yourself, I said. I'm giving you a choice, prison or redemption. He was shaking. If I sign the confession, you won't press charges? Not if you hold up your end. The moment you miss a payment, the moment you contact me outside the terms we set, the moment you lie to me again, it all goes to the prosecutor. That's not forgiveness, he said bitterly. That's a trap. That's accountability, I corrected. Something you've never had to face. Richard sat there for a long time, staring at his hands. I'll need time to think. No. I stood up. You decide now, right now, because at 9 a.m. Monday, Karen files her motions. Once that happens, the offer is off the table. Mom, please. Now, Richard. He closed his eyes, took a shaky breath. Okay, he whispered. I'll sign. I pulled out the confession Karen had prepared. I'd been carrying it in my purse since Friday, hoping but not expecting this moment. Richard read it. His hands trembled as he signed at the bottom. I witnessed it, dated it, took a photo with my phone. You can stay here tonight, I said. On the couch. In the morning, you leave. You find a job. You find a place to live. You start over. Can I call you? To let you know I'm okay? No. All communication goes through Karen. You send her proof of payment every week. She forwards it to me. That's it. For 11 years. For 11 years. He lay down on the couch, curled up like a child. I got him a blanket. Not because I forgave him, because I was still his mother. Mom? He said as I turned to leave. Yes? I'm sorry. For everything. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am sorry. I looked at him. This man who'd been my sweet boy, my only child, my reason for living for so many years. I know you are, I said. But sorry isn't enough. Not this time. I went upstairs to my bedroom, locked the door, sat on the edge of my bed. My phone buzzed. Anonymous text. He's lying about Melissa leaving. She's at a hotel waiting for him. They have a plan. Don't trust him. A friend attached was a photo. Melissa. At the Hampton Inn on Route 55. Checked in under M. Brooks. Tonight's date stamp. My heart sank. Richard was still lying, even now, even after everything. I looked at the confession on my phone. It was signed, legal, binding. It didn't matter if he was lying. I had what I needed. I texted Karen. He signed. I'll bring the document tomorrow. She replied immediately. Good. But Linda, be careful. People like Richard don't change overnight. I knew that now. I lay down in my bed, in the room I'd shared with Thomas for 40 years, and stared at the ceiling. Downstairs, my son slept on my couch, or pretended to. Tomorrow would tell me which. I didn't sleep. At 5:30 a.m., I heard movement downstairs. Quiet, careful. The third step creaked, my home alarm system. I got out of bed and stood at the top of the stairs, listening. Richard was on the phone, his voice a harsh whisper. I signed it. No, she bought it. Yeah, the whole sob story. Meet me at Denny's in 20 minutes. We need to figure out next steps. My chest tightened. Even now. Even after everything. Still lying. I walked downstairs. He was by the front door, car keys in hand, halfway to escape. Going somewhere? I asked. He jumped, phone clattering to the floor. Mom, I needed to get some air. You were calling Melissa. His face went white. No, Don't. My voice was granite. I know she's at the Hampton Inn. Room registered to Monsieur Brooks. I know you're meeting her at Denny's. I know this whole thing, the tears, the confession, the promises, was another performance. Mom, please, listen. Get out of my house. Just let me explain. You have 10 seconds before I call the police. The confession is signed, witnessed, legal. Whether you stay or leave doesn't matter anymore. I have what I need. He stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. You changed, he said quietly. The mom I knew would never. The mom you knew is dead, I said. She died the day you stole from your dying father. Get out. He grabbed his jacket and left without another word. I watched through the window as his Lexus pulled out of my driveway for the last time. Then I called Karen. He tried to run, I told her. But I have the confession. Signed and dated. What's next? Next, I file everything Monday morning, Karen said. Civil suit for $2,400 plus interest and legal fees. And Linda, there's something else you need to know. My stomach dropped. What? I've been doing more digging into Melissa's background. Her maiden name is Melissa Brooks. Before she married Richard, she was married to a man named David Chen for 8 months. Divorced him after cleaning out his bank accounts. $43,000. Never faced charges because he didn't press them. Wanted it over fast. She's done this before. 3 times that I can confirm. Different cities, different men. Always the same pattern. Marry someone with assets or family money. Drain them dry. Disappear. Richard never knew? Richard never looked. He was too busy being dazzled by a pretty face. Karen paused. There's a warrant out for Melissa in Indiana. Fraud. Skipped out on a court date 2 years ago. If we can locate her, we can have her arrested. Do it, I said. Monday morning, Karen filed the paperwork. By Tuesday afternoon, police had tracked Melissa to the Hampton Inn. She was arrested at 3:47 p.m. while checking out. Bags packed, plane ticket to California in her purse. The local news covered it. Local woman arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. Her mugshot showed her blonde hair disheveled, mascara smudged, diamond studs still glittering in her ears. The studs I'd probably paid for. Richard wasn't arrested, yet. But he was named in the civil suit. The confession meant he couldn't fight it. He owed me $29,400 and the court would enforce it. On Wednesday, I got an envelope at my door. No return address. Inside was a thumb drive and a handwritten note on expensive cardstock. Mrs. Hayes, my name is Sarah Chen. I was married to Melissa Brooks for 8 months in 2019. She destroyed my brother David financially and emotionally. When I saw her name in the news, I knew she'd struck again. I've been following her for 2 years, documenting everything. The casinos, the country clubs, the lies. I sent you those photos. I'm sorry I couldn't stop her sooner, but at least now she'll face justice. The thumb drive contains every photo, every receipt, every piece of evidence I collected. Use it however you need. I hope your family finds peace, Sarah. I stared at the note for a long time. A stranger had protected me when my own family had tried to destroy me. I plugged in the thumb drive. Hundreds of files, photos of Melissa at casinos in 3 states, credit card receipts, screenshots of her online gambling accounts showing losses of over $127,000 in 4 years, and videos. I clicked one dated September 10, 2023, 2 days before Thomas died. It showed Melissa and Patricia in a coffee shop, heads close together. The audio was faint but clear enough. He's dying anyway. Once he's gone, Linda will be vulnerable. We push the dementia angle, get Richard declared her guardian, and you get your $12,000 back plus $5,000 for helping. And Richard's okay with this? Richard doesn't have a choice. He's in too deep. He'll do whatever I say. I played it 3 times. Patricia hadn't just been opportunistic. She'd been part of the plan from the beginning. I called Patricia Thursday morning. Linda. She sounded nervous. I've been meaning to call you. I'm giving you 1 chance, I said. Return the $12,000 you owe me by Friday, or I release a video of you conspiring with Melissa to defraud me. The police already have a copy. Silence. I don't have $12,000. Sell something. Borrow it. I don't care. But if that money isn't in my account by 5 p.m., Friday, you're next. You wouldn't... Try me. I hung up. Friday at 4:47 p.m., $12,000 appeared in my account. Wire transfer from Patricia Coleman. I didn't call to thank her. 2 weeks later, Melissa pleaded guilty to fraud charges in Indiana. Sentenced to 18 months in county jail. Richard was subpoenaed to testify. He confirmed everything. The gambling, the theft, the manipulation. On the stand, he looked broken. Good. The civil suit settled out of court. Richard agreed to the payment plan, $50 per week for 11 years. Karen structured it with automatic withdrawals from his paycheck. He'd gotten a job at a hardware store. $14, $50 an hour. His first payment arrived October 30th, $50. On time. I didn't cash it. I put it in an envelope and tucked it into Thomas's old desk drawer. Maybe in a year, I'd look at it again. Maybe in 5. Maybe never. 3 months after that night, I sold the house on Birch Lane. Richard and Melissa had left it in shambles. Holes in walls, stained carpets, broken appliances. It cost me $8,000 in repairs. I sold it for $187,000. After expenses, I cleared $141,000. I donated $50,000 to a legal aid fund for elder abuse victims. The rest went into a trust, locked, untouchable by anyone but me. I spent Thanksgiving alone. Not because I had no options, my friend Karen invited me, and so did my neighbor Eleanor, but because I needed to sit with the silence. I made pot roast. Thomas's favorite. Set the table for 2 out of habit, then removed the second plate. I ate slowly, thinking about the woman I'd been a year ago. The woman who'd sacrificed everything, believing love was measured in dollars and silence. That woman was gone. In her place was someone harder, colder, lonelier, but free. Christmas Eve, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Richard. He was thinner, older. He held a small wrapped box. I didn't open the door. "Mom," he called softly. "I know you don't want to see me, but I needed to bring you this. It's not much. I'll leave it on the porch." He set the box down and walked away. I waited until his car disappeared before I opened the door. Inside the box was a small wooden bird, hand-carved, clumsy but careful. A note underneath, "I'm learning woodworking, trying to honor Dad. I'm sorry for everything." I held the wooden bird in my palm. It was ugly, lopsided. The beak was too long, the wings uneven. But he'd made it with his hands, like Thomas used to. I put it on the mantel next to Thomas's photo. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but acknowledgement. New Year's Eve, I got a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Hayes, this is Emily Brooks. I'm Melissa's daughter from her first marriage. I'm 19. I just found out what my mother did to you and your family. I'm so sorry. She did the same thing to my dad. I haven't spoken to her in 3 years. I wanted you to know. Richard has been paying you every week. I know because I work at the hardware store with him. He talks about you sometimes, about how he ruined everything, about how he's trying to be better. I don't know if this matters to you, but I thought you should know he's not lying this time. I hope you find peace. You deserve it." I stared at the message for a long time. Emily, the girl from the phone call that felt like a lifetime ago. Melissa's daughter, who had also been abandoned, used, discarded. I typed a response. "Thank you for telling me. I hope you find peace, too." She replied immediately. "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Do you think people can really change? Or are we all just doomed to repeat our parents' mistakes?" I looked at the wooden bird on my mantel, at Thomas's photo, at the life I'd built and lost and rebuilt from ashes. "I think change is possible," I wrote, "but it's expensive. It costs everything you thought you knew about yourself. Most people aren't willing to pay that price." "Are you?" "I already did," I replied. She sent a heart emoji. Then, "Maybe I'll try too." Today is March 15th, 2024. 6 months since that Sunday morning when my life split in two. Richard is still paying $50 every week. I haven't cashed a single check. Melissa is in jail. Patricia is silent. Thomas is still gone. And I am here. Not happy exactly, but not broken either. I've learned that silence isn't peace, it's surrender. I've learned that family isn't who shares your blood, but who honors your worth. I've learned that forgiveness isn't something you give freely, it's something you earn, slowly, over years, with actions, not words. And I've learned that the price of speaking up is steep, but the price of staying silent is steeper. Last week, I got a letter, real mail, handwritten address, from Richard. I haven't opened it yet. It sits on my kitchen table, next to my morning coffee, next to the red notebook where I documented everything. Maybe tomorrow I'll read it. Maybe next month. Maybe never. For now, it's enough to know I have the choice. That's what freedom is, not the absence of pain, but the presence of choice. What would you do in my place? Would you read the letter? Would you ever forgive? If you've experienced family betrayal or elder abuse, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not powerless. Speak up, document everything. Find your Karen, find your voice. This is my story. What's yours? Comment below or send me a message. Let's help each other heal.